Hi, and welcome to the Traveling Fool, the podcast where we talk about travel destinations, the history and culture around those destinations, along with travel tips and news. I'm your host, Bob Bales, and today I'm going to take you to a little place just outside of Waco, Texas, and we're going to talk about the incredible Texas man who was born in the 1700s and lived until the 1900s. That's if you believe the story. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back. Now, before we get started, please hit that like or subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And you can also go to the website, thetravelingfool.com, sign up for the monthly newsletter. That's where I send out information about the latest travel news, along with sweepstakes to win a trip or two and some other travel-related contests. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to talk about this fella named Isaac. Now, he claimed to have been born in Buncombe County, North Carolina on March the 1st, 1787, just 5 years after the American Revolution and 1 year before the U.S. Constitution became ratified. Now, according to his story, as a young man, he went to Georgia to work in the gold mines, and after several years, went to DeKalb County, Alabama, to learn the blacksmithing trade and become an apprentice, so he could later open up his own establishment. Now, sometime around 1837, he met a girl named Lucinda, whom he married, and she bore him 4 children before dying in 1849. Sometime in September of 1852, in Rusk County, Texas, he married his second wife, a girl by the name of Sarah. She was around 19, had come from Alabama, and they had 12 more children before her death in 1907 at the age of 74. Now, if you believe this, so far, Isaac was 47 at the time of his first marriage and 64 when he married the second time. Now, it's not unheard of at the time for older men to marry younger women, even somebody in their 60s marrying somebody that was 19. So the story is plausible so far. Now, over the years, Isaac had told people he was once a Texas Ranger and he had served in the Mexican-American War and all kinds of other exploits. Now, none of that has ever been found out to be true. But what is true is that he served in the Civil War. Now, some accounts say that in 1858, Isaac moved to East Texas. And in the 1860s, he tried to enlist in the Confederate Army as a blacksmith. Some say either he was turned down for being too old, or that he was accepted when he agreed to take the place of another man. But other newspaper accounts say that Isaac was pressed into service and made to join, but in his heart he was always a Union man. So you're getting a lot of different accounts from a lot of different places. But what is known for a fact is his age was listed as 48 years of age in the 1860 federal census. Now, his enlistment papers as a private with Company H, 19th Texas Infantry, in 1862 list his age as 53 years old. Now, Isaac later told one newspaper that he had given officials the wrong age just so he could get in. But after the Civil War, Isaac relocates again and appears in McLennan County, Texas, and settled on the north side of the Bosque River. Now, one of his children, Sally, recalled that they made a real long trek from Smith County to Waco in 1872, and she remembered how her father used to make all their own furniture, and he would make everything for the house. She remembers that he was shoeing horses well into his 90s and walked the 35-mile round trip from his home into town just 2 years before he died from old age. Now, some accounts say that Isaac died in the home of one of his daughters, while others contend that he died in the county poorhouse. Now, I read one newspaper article because I did a little research on this. And one newspaper article from 1909 stated that he was brought to the county poorhouse from his home the previous summer, which would have been 1908, and that he never returned to his home. It stated he was old, blind, and off his mental balance and liable to hurt someone So he was tried for lunacy. They had a trial. The judge didn't find him to be insane, but did order him to be placed into the poorhouse. The article went on to say that the superintendent of the facility said he had never had a more docile and quiet male, that he and his wife had looked after Isaac and made him comfortable. The superintendent said Isaac died peacefully in his sleep on September the 3rd, 1909, which, if you believe all the stories, would make him 122 years and 184 days old. Now, that would make him older than the oldest person in recorded history who does have fully authenticated records. Her name was Jean Calment, a French woman who lived to be 122 and 164 days old. And that puts Isaac at 20 days older than her. Now, according to his descendants, Isaac was a man who liked to pull one's leg and actually gave the birth date of an uncle who had the same name as a joke. They said that the Isaac who was born in 1787 in Buncombe County, North Carolina, was actually his mother's brother. The 1880 census shows Isaac Brock of McLennan County, Texas, as a 75-year-old farmer, not a 93-year-old one. However, other descendants said they've done their research, and that while Isaac did embellish a lot of his exploits, like telling everybody he was a Texas Ranger and stuff, he was actually that old when he died. Now, we'll likely never know Isaac's true age at the time of his death. However, Isaac was buried in China Spring, an unincorporated town just outside Waco, Texas, and his tombstone says, born March the 1st, 1787. Now, most modern people or researchers have put Isaac's birth somewhere around 1805 or right in that area, which means that he would have been 95 at the time of his death, not 122. But in either event, he lived to be an old man and obviously saw a lot during his lifetime. And like the quote at the end of the movie, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, one of my all-time favorite movies. I love that movie. But at the end of the movie, there's a quote. The newspaper man says, "Well, this is the West, sir. And when the legend becomes fact, print the legend." Now, Isaac Brock, he was buried in the China Springs Cemetery, and that's located about 15 miles west of Waco, Texas. But that's just one reason to visit the Waco area. And if you happen to be there, I would highly suggest going by the cemetery and checking out Isaac's grave. And who knows, maybe he was the oldest man to ever live. But there's a lot to see and do in this little central Texas town of Waco. Now, for those not familiar with Texas, Waco we've got an Interstate 35 that runs north to south from Oklahoma border down through South Texas. And Waco is about halfway between the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Austin on Interstate 35. It's a little closer to Dallas-Fort Worth, but it's roughly the halfway mark. But there's a lot to see and do in Waco. In fact, while Isaac was telling everybody he was a Texas Ranger, Waco does have the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame, and they don't have any record of Isaac ever being a member. But the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame is definitely one place you want to visit. The Texas Rangers were formed in 1823 when Stephen F. Austin, he's considered the father of Texas. He brought 300 families, called the Old 300. They brought them into Texas under a grant from Mexico. Well, in 1823, Stephen F. Austin hired 10 men to protect 600 to 700 families who were arriving in Texas. And in 1835, just before the Texas independence from Mexico, they were formally constituted as an agency. And within 2 years, they numbered over 300 men. Now, over the years, the Texas Rangers have evolved into one of the country's most effective law enforcement agencies. And the Hall of Fame has 6 galleries with artifacts and exhibits that depict the history of the Rangers up through modern times. People like Frank Hamer, who was instrumental in tracking down and eliminating, I guess you could say, Bonnie and Clyde and other famous Texas Rangers. But that's not the only Hall of Fame that's in Waco. While you're there, visit the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. That began as an idea in 1949 to create a Texas Sports Hall of Fame. And it became a reality in 1951 when Baseball Hall of Famer Tris Speaker, who was born in Hubbard, Texas, became the first person inducted. And I know that unless you're just a rabid baseball nut, you're going, oh, who is this guy? Well, he was a Hall of Famer, and I think he's still like number 5 on the best batting average. And he's got tons of records. But the Sports Hall of Fame used to be located in Garland, Texas, until 1986, and it just kind of became dormant. So in 1993, the Texas Sports Hall of Fame reopened in Waco. And it currently has over 400 Texas sports legends showcased, from boxing greats like Jack Johnson and George Foreman to Carl Lewis in track and field, Earl Campbell in football. There's inductees from horse racing to stock car racing, and basketball and gymnastics, golf and rodeo. They're all showcased. If you're ever in Waco, I would highly suggest checking it out. And to get into the Texas Hall of Fame, you're going to find people who were either born in Texas or played the majority of their career here. You've got a lot of modern-day Houston Astros like Jeff Bagwell, a few others that are they weren't born in Texas, but they're listed in the Texas Hall of Fame because we claimed them. They played here for 20 years. Now, while you're in Waco, you can't help but go to Baylor University. Baylor is the oldest continually operating university in the state of Texas. It was chartered in 1845. And the university actually opened its doors in a place called Independence, Texas, which is near Brenham and not too far from College Station, a little bit east of Waco. Well, we say a little bit east. It could be 100, 200 miles, but I've actually been to Independence, and the ruins of Baylor are located there. But in 1861, Waco University opened in Waco, and in 1886, they merged with Baylor, and the university was consolidated, and Waco became the home of the university. So while you're there, drive around on campus and check it out. You may want to visit the Mayborn Museum Complex at Baylor. It offers natural history exhibits, mammoths and skeletons and dioramas and all kinds of stuff. They've got a big discovery room for kids, Texas history displays and rotating travel exhibits. And while you're on the campus, check out the Baylor Bear Habitat. And that's where they have their live mascots that you see on the football games and on TV and everything. Their live mascots live at the Baylor Bear Habitat. Stop by and check them out. But drive around on campus and check it out. You'd enjoy it. Now, in 1870, there was the Waco Suspension Bridge was built. Goes across the river. So what? Well, for years, the bridge served as a Chisholm Trail crossing driving cattle up north. But at the time of its completion, in 1870, it was the longest single-span suspension bridge west of the Mississippi. And it was built by cable supplied by the John Roebling Company, who actually built the Brooklyn Bridge in New York City. Today, the Waco Suspension Bridge is a pedestrian-only bridge, and it takes only a few minutes to walk across it from end to end. It crosses the Brazos River in Waco, Texas, and it's iconic. It's actually a beautiful bridge. While you're there, take a walk on that bridge and look out over the Brazos River and go from one part of town to the other. Now, if you're from Texas, you should know this, otherwise we'll probably revoke your Texas card. But if you're not from Texas, you may know it, you may not. But in 1885 in Waco, Texas, there was a pharmacist by a fellow by the name of Charles Alderton. And he created a unique 23-flavor blended drink at Morrison's Old Corner Drugstore. And he named it, say it with me now, Dr. Pepper. That's right, making it the nation's oldest major soft drink, older than even Coca-Cola. Well, the museum's housed in a 1906 artisan manufacturing and bottling company, the Dr. Pepper Museum in Waco. And this artisan manufacturing and bottling company building is located in downtown Waco. And it's actually listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The Dr. Pepper Museum is open year-round except major holidays. And you can tour the museum by day, and I think there's a thing where they'll show you how to bottle your own drinks. And it's a cool museum. But at nighttime, they have the paranormal tour, and you can see a part of the building that most people don't get to see, like down in the basement and stuff. And over the years, several people have seen and experienced strange happenings going on at this place. So you might want to go on a paranormal tour while you're there. Now, this place is cool. The Waco Mammoth National Monument. It stands out, I should say, as a site where fossils of 24 Columbian mammoths and other mammals have been uncovered. The site is the largest known concentration of mammoths who died from a recurring event, which is believed to have been a flash flood. The mammoths on site did not all die at the same time, but rather during 3 separate events that happened in the same area. Now, Columbian mammoths lived somewhere between 10,000 to a million years ago, and research has indicated that between 65,000 and 72,000 years ago, a nursery herd of at least 19 mammoths were trapped and drowned by rapidly rising floodwaters from the Bosque River. Later floods trapped other mammoths and animals. And you can go and check this place out. It's fascinating. But the park is open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily, except on major holidays. And now it's a national park. But check it out, Waco Mammoth National Monument. Now, if you want to see some live critters, head over to the Cameron Park Zoo. It's really cool. It's 52 acres of natural habitats and close-up encounters. And the animal collection has housed at the zoo includes more than 1,700 animals, representing 300 different species. You know, when was it? 2009, the zoo opened up what they call the Asian Forest. It features critically endangered orangutans and Sumatran tigers and Komodo dragons. But it is a really well-run zoo, and it's just really cool. They've got a ton of animals, and I love a good zoo. If you're there, you got kids, even if you don't have kids, head out to the Cameron Park Zoo and check them out. And Cameron Park is a huge area out there. It's got hiking trails and picnic trails and just all kinds of stuff, so you can make a day out of it. Now, I do have to admit something. I have never watched this television show, but there's a show called Fixer Upper, starring Chip and Joanna Gaines. I've seen their little ads on TV, but I've never watched the show. But they're from Waco, and they've opened up a place called Magnolia Market at the Silos. It's about 5 acres. It's got these 2 big grain silos there, and the area is about 5 acres in size, and it's owned by these 2. And like I said, they're best known for I think it's on HGTV, Fixer Upper TV series. But they completely transformed the landmark of these silos, which helped to change the city as well as the surrounding areas. The grounds include about a 12,000 square foot retail store where they sell all their stuff. And it's located in the historic grain barn. And there's an office building there. There's a food truck park. There's picnic tables, a garden store, a bakery, a lawn area. It's a big deal. And admission to the grounds is free unless they're having their special events. I saw one thing which said that there was like 1 million tourists come to visit this Magnolia Market at the Silos. So if you're into the home and garden thing, or if you want to go shopping for something for your home and just check out a cool area, I guess Magnolia Market and Silos is one of the big draws in town. Now, they also have Valley Mills Vineyards. Valley Mills Vineyards was founded in 2006, and it's a full-production boutique winery. The vineyards cover over 30 acres. They make all their own wines from in-house from Texas-grown grapes, and they specialize in the production of dry, red wines, but they offer other options. They're open daily from 12 to 6, and you can book a tasting or a tour of the vineyard. And they have special events and live music throughout the year, so you may want to check out their website, the Valley Mills Vineyards. But Waco also has 4 breweries in town if you like going to brew pubs and checking out the local breweries, along with Balcones Distillery, which is one of the premier whiskey distillers in the state of Texas. They make great whiskey. And they also have some great places to grab a bite to eat. I mean, I would recommend 2 places. There's a ton of them, but there's 2 that I would recommend if you hit Waco. Cafe Homestead for good old Texas country cooking. I mean, they've got really good food. and Papa Jack's for some finger-licking good Texas barbecue. But there's a lot I think Terry Black's has a barbecue place there. There's several places to eat there. But Papa Jack's, you need to check that place out. So all in all, Waco makes for a great trip. I mean, you can check out Isaac Brock's gravesite and all the things to see and do in Waco. I think you'll definitely enjoy it. But it just goes to show, I mean, you never know what's in these small towns or just outside of a town. A lot of history, a lot of legends, a lot of things occurred. You just have to do a little digging. And to me, it's interesting. You go to some small town, you find out that a famous gunfighter was buried in the cemetery and his exploits around town. Or the man who said he lived to be the oldest man in recorded history. Like I said, we may never really know if Isaac Brock lived to be 122 years old, but I'm sure that old man had a really interesting life. Well, that's it for this week. And if you know someone that might like the podcast, send them a link to it. I'd appreciate it. Hit that like or subscribe button. I mean, that's the only thing that helps people see this thing. And until next time, safe travels.